Not everything has been bad for the Atlanta Braves in their 0-7 start, but there certainly has been a lot of bad in there. We'll talk about both on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Been appreciating all the views and comments here lately. Sorry I haven't gotten back to most of any of them. There's just been so much here lately, but I appreciate all the support, even through the rough start to the season. The postcast we had the other night, a lot of views. I know it was a heartbreak. Probably some Dodgers fans coming in there to rain down on our heartbreak as well. But thank you so much for all the support that you give us here at Locked On Braves. Those listening on the audio version, you can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the good and the bad in the Braves' 0-7 start to begin the year. And yes, there have been some good in there. In fact, I think it's mostly been good. There's just one asset of the Braves that's really been struggling. We'll dive into all of that on today's episode. Let's start out, though, talking about the game on Wednesday night. I know you don't want to do it again. I don't really either, and I'm not going to go deep into it. You want to hear mine and Lindsay's thoughts from that game, go listen to the postcast, which you can get in your Locked On Braves podcast feed on YouTube and on the audio side. Elder starts the game, 4 innings, 3 earned. Honestly, if you would have told me going into that start that that's what you were going to get out of him, I would have been, I don't want to say thrilled, but I think I would have been okay with that start from Bryce Elder. He survived it. And I think Bryce Elder is just a guy that you get him against the right lineup, he can have some success at the big league level. I just do not trust him pitching against the Dodgers, and most likely it's going to be the Phillies his next turn through the rotation. When he's pitching against lineups that aren't going to chase and some of the better lineups out there, he's just not somebody that I trust. And then the bullpen was great until it wasn't. It was a big ask when your starter only goes 4 innings and you leave with a 2-run lead against this Dodgers lineup, and you're asking the bullpen to cover 5 innings and basically not give up anything. That's a tough ask, but they were so close. They were 5 outs away from getting it done. You bring in Iglesias, and he just was not sharp. Everything was up for Iglesias in that 8th inning. I actually thought he threw the ball better in the 9th inning when he gave up the walk-off home run to Ohtani. But he just did not have it in that 8th inning. Whether they tried to rush getting him ready. I don't know what the case was. The velo was down also in that inning, but everything was up, and that's just not like Iglesias, who is very consistently able to move that changeup and slider at the bottom of the zone. But he left everything up, including the ball. I believe it was a changeup that he left up to Max Muncy, who ripped it into right center to tie up the game. And then the offense, they were 5 for 15 with runners in scoring position. They had 1 hit with runners in scoring position coming into the game. They got 5 in this one. The Dodgers were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position, and yet the Braves still lost. Now you look at the 5 hits with runners in scoring position, but I look at the 15. You had 15 opportunities with runners in scoring position, and you only had 5 hits out of that. And that's really where it comes back. You saw some small ball in here, a couple of bunts, a stolen base. But the big thing here, we can talk about obviously the bullpen and them blowing it late. But for me, it's the offense not finishing them off. You got bases loaded, nobody out for Ozuna, Riley, and Olsen, and you get nothing. That was the ballgame. I mean, obviously the way things played out, who knows, but you put the game away right there when you have a chance, and you're going against their 7th and 8th relievers. You're not going up against their top guys, and you still weren't able to come away with that big blow. In the inning after that, they had Nick Allen at third base with 1 out and weren't able to get him in either. And so just missed opportunities for the offense to put the game away. I want to talk about Brian Snitker for a second, because obviously you start out 0-7. A lot of people asking to fire the manager, which I don't believe is going to happen, at least not now. I actually thought this was great managing by Brian Snitker in this game. Players just didn't step up in big spots, and that's not anything that Brian Snitker can control. All he can really control as a manager is putting his players in spots to succeed and putting his best players in spots to succeed, and he did that. You shook up the lineup a little bit. You got some guys at the bottom of the order that can do some different things for you in Nick Allen and Eli White. I thought that was great. Again, you saw some small ball from them being able to manufacture some runs. Obviously, you got some help from the Dodgers defensively, but I thought that was good. And you put Ozuna in the 2 spot and you get him up to the plate with bases loaded, nobody out. It's just the players didn't come through. Ozuna, Riley, Olsen didn't come through. Raisel Iglesias didn't come through. But I thought he made all the right decisions to put his team in the best possible chance to win that game. But at the end of the day, the players play the game, and your big stars just didn't come through. I mean, that's who you want having the ball in that spot. You want Raisel Iglesias to have the ball in that spot. He just didn't perform. You want Marcell Ozuna up at the plate with bases loaded, nobody out. He just didn't come through. And that's nothing against Brian Snitker. There's nothing he can do about that. I actually thought it was a great job by Snitker, from shaking up the lineup a little bit into all of the bullpen. Maybe the only criticism I think is that maybe he got a little bit too cute with the bullpen, mid-game, bringing in pitchers in the middle of innings and all of that in the middle of at bat, bringing in Raisel Iglesias in the middle of an at bat, which it did look like Dayswell was, starting to lose it a bit. But again, I can't blame a guy who was coaching a game from desperation, really wanting to hold on to that game and get one win on that West Coast trip. So I thought he did a good job of that. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it right now with the 0-7 start, but I thought it was a good job by Brian Snitker trying to do all that he could to put his team in a position to win that game. But at the end of the day, players didn't come through in those big spots. All right, next, I want to get to the good and the bad through this 0-7 start. And there is some good. I think there's a lot of good that we've seen in these first 7 games. It's just the one thing that they've been really bad at. They've been really, really bad at. We'll get into all of that here next. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. There's a joke in there, but I'm not going to do it. Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Whether you're recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. So Jerickson Profar, I'm talking to you. I said I wasn't going to do it, and then I did it. Jerickson Profar, visit justingredients.us. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. Again, that's justingredients.us. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? I do it all the time. I got a family of 5 here. I got to feed them. Where's this money going? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all that stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Again, one more time, go to monarchmoney.com, and when you're there, use code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get 50% off. That's 50% off your first year. Well, thanks as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And when you're done here, go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. Well, I know it's hard to look at an 0-7 record and what's happened so far and see the good in it. But I'm going to try to give you some positives here before we really get into the negatives. We will cover the bad. I know that's what most of you are here for. But let's try to look at some of the positives with where the Braves are right now. And I think the number one positive is that it's early. And again, I know you don't want to hear that right now after an 0-7 start, but there are still 155 games left to be played. And you certainly don't want to dig yourself into a hole, but there are usually times during the season where you're going to have a rough week or two. You're going to have a 2-6 stretch. I know we're even beyond that at this point, and you can recover from that. You can still go on to have a good season. Braves just happen to be having it right out of the gate, so it's magnified. And look, anytime you lose 7 in a row, I don't care what point of the season it is, it's going to be magnified and it's going to be painful. But the Braves can overcome it. And, hopefully this is the worst stretch of their season and they can get on track and get going. And there's plenty of time to do that. Now they're going to need to counter this. There's going to need to be a big win streak in here. There's going to need to be a hot 8-2 streak or something like that to try to counteract an 0-7 start. But they have time to do that. The other good thing you can look at is that the two teams they have played, they also haven't lost to anybody. The Padres and the Dodgers are both undefeated, and the Dodgers have played 2 extra games, or 1 extra game than some people, 2 than others with the games that they played in Japan. And both the Dodgers and the Padres are undefeated and probably the 2 best teams in baseball right now with the way that they are playing. I watched some of the other Padres games against the Guardians. Those weren't close matchups. The Padres just absolutely dominated them. And I know you can't find victory and losses, but the Braves have been in every single one of those games. I know they lost 2 of those games by 5 runs, but those games were close until the very end. Well, that one against the Padres, they pulled away. I think it was Sunday Night Baseball. And then the one against the Dodgers on Monday, they kind of pulled away late. But those games were close late into the game. And all the other games were, 2 1-run games. So the Braves were in every single one of those games, and it could have gone their way. It just didn't. And it's unfortunate. You have so many close losses like that, and none of them go your way. But again, you're playing 2 of the best teams in baseball, if not the 2 best teams in baseball right now, that are both undefeated, and you happen to play them on the road on the West Coast out of the gate. And you played competitive games against them. And I understand nobody wants to hear how competitive you were with the team right now. And the Braves, with where they want to be, where they should be, they shouldn't just be competing with those teams. They should be expecting to beat those teams. So I get all of that. I'm just saying at different points of a season, a team's going to be playing better and going to be playing worse. We talk about it all the time. You want to be playing your best baseball going into October. Out of the gate, the Rays are playing some of their worst baseball, but it's compounded by the fact that they're also playing 2 teams that are playing their best baseball. The Dodgers are probably going to play their best baseball all year, but the Padres are the one that really surprised a lot of people, and they're just playing really good baseball right now. So that's some of the good. The other good is that the pitching's been okay outside of Neris. It certainly hasn't been great, but I think the pitching has been good enough to win you ball games. If you take out Neris's 1 inning and the 5 runs that he gave up, the Braves team ERA drops down almost a completely whole run. I don't know why I said it like that. But it drops almost an entire run difference, just taking out Neris's 5 runs that he's given up. Now, that's still just middle of the pack ERA-wise, and not, like I said, great, but it's okay. Pitching, in my mind, hasn't been the problem. Starters, outside of Schwellenbach, they've kept them in the game, but again, they haven't been great. Chris Sale going 5 innings, giving up 3 earned in both of his starts. It's not great, but it's kept your team in the game. And the same for some of the other starters outside of Schwellenbach. And outside of Neris, the bullpen has been fine. Again, not great, but they've been okay. Johnson is the only one that hasn't allowed a run, but no one has allowed more than 2 runs. And only Daysbell and Aaron Bummer have given up 2 runs. Everybody else is 1 runs right now. So, again, the pitching has been okay. I understand it hasn't been great, but it's been okay. That hasn't been a big issue for me. And, some of the outings, like for Chris Sale, I just think he maybe ran out a little bit of gas out of a long top of the 6th inning. He left some pitches up to 2 of the best hitters, not just on the Dodgers, but in all of baseball, and they made him pay. But outside of that, he looked like his dominant self. He had the 2-strike pitch to Jackson Merrill in inning 1 of opening day of good pitch off the plate. Just Jackson Merrill was on a heater in that series. So, again, I think the pitching has been not good. Maybe I shouldn't put it quite in the good category, but it's been okay. It's been fine. Maybe the best part of this team so far has been the defense, and particularly on the infield, where Austin Riley, he has been atrocious at the plate, but it has not carried over into the field, where he's already made 4 or 5 web gems, like Gold Glove level plays, to just shove it in the face of everybody who only looks at his metrics and thinks he's not a good defender. Austin Riley has been great defensively. Nick Allen, Orlando Arcia are both very solid at shortstop. I've seen better range already from Ozzie, and I started to see that in the second half of last year. I can really only think of one, maybe two plays this year, so I don't want to over-exaggerate it, but I have seen some better range from Ozzie. Now, the arm is still an issue, and it's maybe cost us at least one double play, if not two, that I've seen so far. But again, I've seen some better defense from Ozzie, and then Matt Olson's over there picking everything at first base. So the best part of this team has been the defense, the infield defense in particular. Obviously, Michael, what he does in center field. But the defense has been the best part of this team, maybe by far at the moment. And then they're also third in baseball with a walk rate of 11.7%. If that continues and the hits start to come, then this offense can definitely take off. Now, there's a caveat to that high walk rate. Half of those walks have been Ozuna, and that's because the team is making somebody else beat them besides Ozuna, and Olson has a good number of those walks as well. So they're really being careful with Ozuna and Olson and not really scared of anybody else in the lineup at the moment, and that has worked out. Nobody has more than 2 walks outside of Ozuna and Olson. So again, that high walk rate for the team is a bit deceptive because it's really just Ozuna and Olson that are taking their walk. So those are some of the goods for me. It's early. The pitching has been good enough. The defense has been outstanding, particularly on the infield. And at least Ozuna and Olson, are taking their walks. They just need other guys to step up. And that's why, again, going back to Snitker's decisions, shaking up the lineup, putting Ozuna in the 2 spot with Riley and Olson behind him, kind of trying to force other teams to have to pitch to him. I think that's a good idea. If they're not really scared of Ozzie and Michael Harris hitting behind him, move him up in front of Riley and Olson, although I don't know that anybody's really that scared to pitch to Riley right now. But I think that's a good call by Brian Snitker and the staff. Now let's get into the bad. And I mean, when you look at it, the only thing that's really been that bad for the Braves is the offense. It's just the offense has been dreadful, like dreadful. It is 6 for 49 with runners in scoring position. We all know about the runners in scoring position issue that really dates back to last year. That 122 average is the second lowest only to Seattle. 122 batting average with runners in scoring position. The Mets have been just as bad. They're 7 for 48 with runners in scoring position, but they have 2 home runs in those situations, which makes a big difference. The Braves are striking out 27.3% of the time in those spots. That was actually improved with Wednesday's game. Last time I looked at it, it was at 30%. So it's early in the season. You're going to see numbers fluctuate, still make some big jumps really through the first month and a half of the season. But it dropped down 3% in that game on Wednesday. So they at least did better there. They have the 3rd highest hard hit rate. And I get it. None of you want to hear about the exit velocities. None of you want to hear about the hard hit rate, but they have hit the ball when they've made contact. They've made hard contact, just not getting anything to drop. And part of it is because that contact is where the launch angle is. It's where they're contacting the baseball. They have the 3rd highest infield fly pop-ups. So infield fly ball percentage. That means a bunch of easy pop-ups on the infield or shallow outfield like we saw with Ozuna with bases loaded, no outs. Too many pop-ups in these spots. They have the 6th lowest line drive rate. So basically what you're seeing with runners in scoring position, and I don't think this is just with runners in scoring position, you're seeing the Braves either hit easy ground outs or easy fly balls pop-ups. There's not a lot of line drives at the moment. And look, when it heats up in the summer and those balls start flying out a little bit more often, you want them to get under it. You want them to put the ball in the air. But early on in the season, you want to hit those line drives, and they're just not doing that. I generally think runners in scoring position is a stat that fluctuates throughout the season, and it will eventually even out. Last year, as bad as it was, the Braves ended up with a 247 average with runners in scoring position, which was 19th best. It's not like they were the worst, and they're just a couple of points away from being in the middle of the pack last year. However, there does seem to be an approach issue. And I think maybe even bigger than that, it seems to be a mindset at this point. It seems to be creeping into the mind of these hitters. You could see Austin Riley at the plate the other night with bases loaded, 1 out. It's in his head right now. He knows he needs to come through in those spots. And they're pressing, they're trying to do too much. You can just tell. And I think it's starting to become more mental than anything. I do think there is an approach change that needs to happen. You don't have to hit the grand slam. You don't have to have the big gapper, but you do need to make some contact. You do need to put the ball, in the outfield, or with nobody out, they're playing double play depth. Just put the ball on the ground up the middle even. And they're not able to do that. So I think it's a little bit of a both. I think there's an approach issue, but I also think there's a big mental issue right now that these Braves hitters are trying to overcome, knowing they need to come through in those spots and knowing that they haven't been. I want to talk about that Riley at bat for a minute the other night. You can just see it in Riley's head right now. He lays off a really good breaking pitch, a slider, sweeper, whatever you want to call it, or just off the plate, down and away, a pitch that he's really been struggling with these last several games here. He lays off of it. Great take. But then what does Will Smith, and I forget the pitcher's name for the Dodgers, do right after that? He dots a fastball down and away. You can argue maybe it was a ball below the zone, certainly too close to take, but he took it because he thought they were going to double up on that slider. And so you can just see it with Riley right now. He's in between, he's guessing, and he's guessing wrong. He's got to get going. I don't want to put everything on Riley at the moment, but it's been really bad for him. My MVP pick not looking great. The other bad for the offense is average. They're hitting 151 as a team that's last in baseball. Some of that is the competition, but even with that, you can't hit 151. I don't care what pitching staff you're facing. You got to hit better than 151. It does come with a league low 199 batting average on balls in play. That is going to come up and even out some. But some of that's also earned just by bad contact that the Braves are making. And then the strikeout rate, they have the sixth highest strikeout rate at 27.5%. Riley is at 37.9% strikeout rate right now. And again, these numbers are going to fluctuate big time over the first several weeks to month of the season. He's been around a 24 to 25% K rate person. Michael Harris, who's been around a 22% K rate person, he's at 32% right now. And while Jared Kelenic showed some signs in spring training of better plate discipline, he and Michael Harris both have no walks and 8 strikeouts on the season. I should have put this in the good column. Matt Olson's been really good. I know the numbers aren't there, and I know you don't want to hear about expected stats, and I posted this on my social media account. He already has 5 barrels. His expected batting average is over 100 points higher than his actual batting average. His slugging percentage is nearly 300 points higher than his actual slugging percentage. He's been extremely unlucky, and he has walked more than he has struck out so far. Matt Olson has been really, really good. He's just had some bad luck. A ball that, Tatis knocked from going out. I don't know, would have gone off the wall or something. He's had a couple more right up against the wall. These baseballs that are going to be 10 rows deep come summertime. They're just not flying right now. But Matt Olson's been really good early on in the season. If that continues, he's going to have a big year. And I have 2 more bad. Sorry. The lack of athleticism. And this is why, again, I applaud Snit for changing the lineup on Wednesday. You put 2 guys in there, and Allen and White, that can do some different things for you. They can bunt. They can steal a base. I like that, especially with where the offense is right now, getting some guys in there to do some different things for you. I think Nick Allen might be taking over the shortstop spot because of that reason. And I actually think RC has had some pretty good at-bats to begin the year. But Nick Allen, if the defense is just as good, and everything I see says that it is, he puts the bat on the ball, and he brings a speed element that this team just doesn't have and is very lacking. The Braves have 3 stolen bases on the year as a team. 2 of them are from Nick Allen, and 1 of them is from Eli White. You need some more guys in this lineup to help you score in different ways, and those guys bring that. But just overall, this lineup has a big lack of athleticism, and I hate to put so much on Acuna because I know we're looking at him as the savior of this offense and this team, but that's why he is so important. In order for this offense to work, you have to have somebody at the top of the order and at the bottom of the order, like Ronald, like Michael Harris when he was batting 9th, that can get on base in front of those big hitters and can cause havoc. I mean, just by Ronald being on, I pointed this out in the Padres series with Tatis, just his threat at the plate as a home run threat, on the bases as a stolen base threat, that gets into the head of the starting pitcher. And we saw it in that 2023 with Acuna. He got on, and pitchers had to pay so much attention to him that hitters were getting good pitches to hit. And that's just a fact. When you have a player like that, who is that dynamic, it makes such a difference for the lineup. It makes everything else run well. And just can't wait to get him back. But having other guys in the lineup who can do things like that for you is certainly going to be a big help. And then my final bad is holding on runners. This has been going on for years, and the Braves have not addressed it and done anything to try to fix it that I know. Obviously, I'm not there at all the practices and spring training or whatnot, but it doesn't seem like they've addressed it because they're still awful at it. The Braves pitchers have to be the worst at holding on runners. We're giving up free 90 feet on the regular, and it is giving other teams free runs, and we just can't afford to give free runs to the other team right now. The offense is not capable of overcoming that. You go back to the opening day game where you just gave Manny Machado a free 90 feet, and then that Jackson Merrill poke into center field leads to 2 runs instead of just 1. Like, it's the little things like that where they don't pay enough attention to as part of the game. I just talked about it with Ronald and the disruption that he can be on the base pass. And I understand maybe not wanting to focus too much on that you lose focus on the hitter, but got to be able to do it a little bit of both. And Max Fried not being here certainly hurts. He's the best. Obviously a lefty helps, but one of the best at holding runners on, picking runners off. I think Schwellenbach does okay, but everybody else, especially the bullpen guys, are just straight awful at holding on runners. And even Sean Murphy, who has one of the strongest arms in all of baseball, who has one of the best pop times in all of baseball, runners are just taking off on him. And it's not on him, it's on the pitcher. All these stolen bases that you see, most of them are on the pitcher, not being able to hold on runners. That's something that they have to fix and have to address, because you just can't you can't keep giving up free 90 feet and letting that lead to free runs, extra runs for the other team. All right, next we'll move our attention to the home opener where the Braves will be facing the Marlins, trying to get their first win of the season. They'll do it with Spencer Schwellenbach on the mound, going up against Max Meyer. We'll discuss that and get to some of the news of the day. Another addition for the Atlanta Braves. They bring in catcher Jason DeLay. We'll talk about all of that here next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shell variety. I'm not much of a mess person. I can't stand having messes around, but it's also the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to, and if you are one of those, you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. That sounds awesome. Whether you're running between the meetings or dropping off the kids at daycare like me, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. The Braves come home finally after a rough West Coast trip, looking for their first win of the season on Friday night. It'll be Spencer Schwellenbach versus Max Meyer. In Max Meyer's first start against Pittsburgh this year, he went 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 2 runs, just 1 earned on a solo home run and 7 strikeouts. So a really good beginning to his season for him. Obviously, I believe he was a first-round pick. If not, I know he was a top pick out of the University of Minnesota. And got really good stuff. And the Braves saw it last year. Last April, he pitched 6 innings against the Braves, allowed only 3 hits and a walk, 1 earned run on a solo home run. Home runs have been a bit of an issue for him, 2.21 home run per 9 in his major league career. And he also got 3 strikeouts in that April start. And then the Marlins, being like the Marlins, sent him down because they wanted to try to, I guess, limit his innings. I don't know. Brought him back up later in the season, and he got lit up. He was actually absolutely terrible. In the first game of this season against the Pirates, it was 40% sliders, where he got 10 whiffs on 20 swings. It's a really good slider. You have to be able to lay off of that and look for that 4-seamer, which does average 96 miles per hour, 16 inches of induced vertical break, which gives it that perception of rise coming through the zone. But it's also very hittable. Batters outside of Atlanta really hit it well last season, 330 against that 4-seamer. 3 of the 4 hits he allowed in his first start this year were on that fastball. So get in fastball counts and don't miss it. That is the strategy for Max Meyer and the Braves offense on Friday night. Schwellenbach, obviously great in his first outing of the year. Braves need more of that. You got to win these starts when you get, Schwellenbach and Sale. You get these good starts from these guys. You got to find a way to win it. I hope the home crowd is excited, pumped up. I can understand if they're not. I will unfortunately not be there this year. My kid has a game on Friday, and maybe we'll have better luck winning. But hope the Braves fans are receptive to the team, behind them, cheering them on. But again, I can understand it's been a painful, rough start to the season. Please no booing. I never want to tell fans how they should react and what they should do, but please don't boo these guys. They are trying their best. And guess what? While I'm on my soapbox there, don't attack players on social media. Again, I never want to tell you how to be a fan, but I would encourage you not to attack players. You want to chat it up with your friends. You want to chat it up with me in the comments section about a particular player and how they're not playing well. That's fine. That's what we do as fans. But you start attacking people. People aren't coming to your work attacking you when you've had a bad day. I don't think that's the right thing to do. But again, as a fan, you're free to do whatever you think is best. Now, some of the Braves news. Go over the rest of the pitching rotation. AJ Smith-Shawver on Saturday, Grant Holmes on Sunday. Not sure who's throwing for the Marlins yet in that one. But Friday is the one, even though Max Meyer has good stuff, could be a tough matchup for the offense if they can't lay off that slider. Friday seems like the matchup for the Braves. They really need to go after and get the win. They need any win that they can get right now, and all the wins. Braves news from the day. David O'Brien of The Athletic reporting Ronaldo Lopez will have an arthroscopic procedure on his shoulder next week to determine if there is more than just inflammation bothering him. Until then, Braves won't have a timetable on his return, but the hope is that he'll pitch again this season. At the very least, we're talking about months for Lopez, and it's questionable if he'll come back at all this year. Kind of like with Joe Jimenez for me, you kind of just put it out of your mind that he's even in the equation this year. You move on from that. Because he does have experience as a reliever, could he come back and be a reliever at the end of the season? Maybe. But again, I'm not counting on anything from Joe Jimenez and Ronaldo Lopez right now. That's just, I'm pushing that aside and moving on and need to find somebody to step up in those spots. Hector Neris and Jesse Chavez both elected free agency. It's so bad right now that Jesse Chavez doesn't even want to stick around for it. And the Braves acquired catcher Jason DeLay from the Pirates for cash consideration and then sent him to Double-A. This could be foreshadowing that perhaps when Sean Murphy is ready, that Drake Baldwin is going to remain on the roster and that they are preparing for losing Chadwick Tromp, who they'd have to DFA. And Chadwick Tromp's a good backup catcher. He's likely to get picked up by somebody. So I think this is in preparation for that, which again kind of leads us to believe that Drake Baldwin will be staying on the big league roster even when Sean Murphy is ready to come back. Thank you all for joining me here today. Caleb Jones, Sean Murphy needs to be traded for a bag of peanuts. I wouldn't give up on him so quickly right there. I feel somewhat bad for Sean Murphy. He's never going to get a chance to be an everyday catcher here for the Braves. Chadwick's not gone yet. It's just a move for delay likely means that Chadwick Tromp could be gone whenever Sean Murphy comes back. PJ's what size bag of peanuts for Sean Murphy? That's a good one there. Thank you all for joining, though. Laro Bond, Tommy ST24. Thank you all for joining. Benjamin Dalton. Appreciate you all being here with me today. Todd Twilley, we've got a new starting shortstop, right? Arcia benched. It is looking that way. And again, I don't necessarily think it's as much from Arcia, who I think's had some pretty good at bats early on. It's just Nick Allen gives you another. He can do the same things and gives you another dynamic with his legs. He's already, 2 stolen bases. That's double what anybody else has on the team. So again, I think that's more about that. Labes, what about Hurston? Yeah, he was great. I posted about it the other day. We'll talk about it on Miners Monday, but he looked good in his Gwinnett debut. Niner Go Battle for Truth. Thank you all for joining on today's episode of Locked On Braves. Really do appreciate it. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.